Now that you select the perfect location for your civilization, it's time to start the arduous process of building it. But before that, you have to assemble the team who is going to build it. That is when we come to the people. Make sure to subscribe. Let's start. You don't need me to tell you about the importance of farming for an emerging civilization. You need a staple food like wheat, corn, or maize that can easily be cultivated and could feed many people so that your thinkers could focus on innovation and education rather than food production. That should be your first focus in establishing your civilization. But it is not the focus of this video. Rather, on this video, we will focus on the second most important variable on building a civilization: the population. Have you ever asked yourself why Europe was able to colonize Africa instead of the other way around? On the previous video in this series, check it out if you haven't seen it, we discussed the importance of maritime trade and maritime pathways for a civilization, and this maritime power is what enabled Europeans to colonize Africa. But that wasn't the only condition. The weather conditions forced the Europeans to innovate, which led to the Industrial Revolution and the production of weapons and tools to overcome it. And in search of a better land to cultivate and more natural resources to take, the Europeans colonize Africa. But this only gives the Europeans cause and opportunity to colonize Africa, but it didn't ensure Africa's colonization. What enables Africa's colonization is this. This is the ethnic map of Africa, and for most Africans, this map is more important than this map, which shows the nations of Africa, or this map, which shows a unified African continent. As geography and weather conditions gives the means and opportunity for Europe to colonize Africa, it didn't give Africa the same opportunity to defend itself. The lack of navigable waterways prevent Africans from developing intercontinental trade, which prevent them from developing common culture and language. This led to the formation of small tribes. And with the land being easy to cultivate and full of animals easy to domesticate and hunt, there is no need for a trade. This made Africa a culturally and linguistically diverse continent. This is what caused Africa's colonization: the lack of unity from the Africans, which prevent them from defending themselves, and the Berlin Conference, which enabled Europeans to divide Africa without fighting each other. So, why am I talking about colonization? This is not a history channel, and I am not a historian. I brought it up to teach you about the second most important thing for your civilization's existence and prosperity: unity. Unity is the second most important factor for your civilization to become an empire. For all the kumbaya happy talk of diversity is our strength of neoliberalism in the real world, you need a common language, culture, and values for your civilization to prosper. Let me give you an example. Let's get back to colonization. You see on this map all the colonies of Africa except for this one. This is Ethiopia, a civilizational nation that has been here for 3,000 years and the only country to avoid colonization. You might be asking yourself, how could this country avoid colonization? You should be asking who instead of how. This is Menelik II, and he is the reason Ethiopia avoided colonization. Menelik was Ethiopia's emperor during the late 1819s when Italy tried to colonize Ethiopia. Before that, Britain has 2 victories over Ethiopia in 2 different wars, killing 2 of its kings, and Menelik knows it's only a matter of time before the Europeans come for his head too. So he gets ready for it. Being a king of an Orthodox Christian nation, he made a deal with an Orthodox Christian Russia to purchase weapons. He gave the small tribal leaders around his kingdom an option: join the kingdom against the coming war, or go to war with him. Some joined willingly, others he conquered by force. Now he was ready for the coming invasion, multiplying the number of troops he has and expanding the territory and weapons arsenal, and giving birth to the modern nation of Ethiopia on the process. On March 1, 1896, he defeated the invading Italian army, ensuring the independence of Ethiopia and giving hope to the people of Africa. What about today? Today, Ethiopia is a developing nation who just comes out of a 2-year civil war. What is the lesson then? Defending their land against colonizers unify Ethiopians, which led to a victory. But they don't have much more in common after that, which prevent them from developing their nation, rather focusing on their linguistic and cultural differences. That is the lesson: you need unity for your civilization to prosper and become an empire. Unless the citizens work together, having common values, working toward a common cause, your civilization is destined to fail. So how do you foster unity? By utilizing 2 things: common value and language. The importance of language could not be understated. Your people need to communicate and cooperate to develop methodologies and processes, manufacture products, and develop culture. So, common language is very important on that regard. In addition, in order to have a transfer of knowledge to the next generation, your language needs to have a written form, and you need to teach your children reading and writing of that language. But language is only one part of having unity. The other important factor is culture and values. First and foremost, your values should align with human nature. Otherwise, it is destined to be ignored and forgotten. Human beings don't like to be told what to do. So your values should align with their natural instinct, for example. A law saying killing is a crime might have a vast support because it aligned with human instinct to protect themselves and their family from violence, but a law banning specific type of haircut might not has the same support because it goes against human nature of free will. So your values should have these main ingredients protecting the weak and giving your people the freedom to express themselves. The other main ingredient is common religion. You need your people to have common faith, and this common faith should be grounded on not just a higher power to believe in, but a higher purpose for your people to fulfill in serving of their fellow human beings. The next main value should be the formation of families. Your marriages should be a partnership between the man and the women, rather than an ownership of the women by the man. This method had been tried and failed in past civilizations where the woman is considered the property of her husband and the man can marry multiple women because they go against the woman's natural desire to be a free human being and able to choose her partner, so your values should ensure marriage being a partnership between the man and the women rather than ownership of one by the other. Respect for elders should not be underestimated. A society that doesn't listen to its elders is doomed to repeat the mistakes of the previous generation. So for your civilization to last long and prosper, you should have respect for elders. Last but definitely not least, an economy built on trade where the people of your civilization trade their goods and services without restriction of a ruling class, giving way to entrepreneurship and innovation to improve the living standard for all and workers getting paid a fair wage for their job so that they could provide for their family working a single job. These things mentioned should be your core values, and your cultural expressions should work to reinforce your values. Your people should be able to produce unique art paintings, sculptures, music, architecture, and other forms of culture grounded on and in service of reinforcing your values. If you do all these, making the 6 values of common language, laws based on human nature, common religion, marriage being a partnership between the man and the women, respect for elders, and an economy built on free trade your core values, and use your culture to reinforce these values, you will have a unified population whose unity is built on a good and lasting ground-making way to an economic and cultural prosperity. You might ask at this point, but there were other civilizations that have done these things before, and they have fallen. What ensure us these time we will succeed? That is a good question, and it will be answered on the last part of these series, which will be on avoiding pitfalls. Subscribe to this channel to get notified when that video is live, and I'll see you then.